If you ain't fired up by now, I don't know what's wrong with you.
That's right. Good afternoon.
Hey, afternoon, guys. It is Sunday, February the 4th. Already getting on down to Christmas already.
Shh, don't say that. Don't say that.
So how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Hey, Tom.
Shout out to the chat and everybody out there.
Yep. Mr. Jones, Stephen Higgs, Bobby Sprinkle. Guys, how are y'all doing? Oh, Lordy. So what is going on in Van's world today?
Well, in Van's world, I'm trying to fight off a cold, I reckon. And then, just anticipating football season. I know it just, I don't like it. I don't like
it. You don't like it? What's that? Oh, the weight?
Yeah, the weight. The weight kills me.
I told you. It is kind of hard to come up with stuff this time of the year, but I tell you what, the coaching staff's really starting to look, is looking really good this year.
Oh, yeah.
Have we heard anything else about Ryan Grubb, what he's going to decide to do, or what's the story there? Do you know?
I still haven't heard a definite that he's going to the Seahawks or anything like that. I mean, his name's in consideration, and you can't blame him for looking. That's the path to become a head coach at a big level. I mean, I understand it, but I'm not necessarily sure that's the move I would want to make, especially with the Seahawks. They've got they're going to be getting a new head coach. The staff completely changed. You're going to be walking in with a lot of problems. I don't know that that's necessarily the way I'd want to start out. I just have a feeling he's going to be at Alabama, at least this year. Jobs open up in the NFL all the time, but as well as college. But I just have a feeling he's going to be at Alabama at least this year.
Yeah, and I'm like Stephen Hicks. He's not leaving. I mean, if he was leaving, well, I can't say that because a lot of times they do the negotiations and such. So until he says, or they hire another OC or whatever, it's still up in there, but I don't think he's leaving.
I just have a feeling he's going to stick around. He's probably going to get a lot of mentions today. We covered the defense last week, so I figured we'd go over the offense a little bit. I'm not an offensive guru, but we could at least talk about it a little bit. I've been going back and watching. I wanted to see games where they had a lot of success and games where they struggled, and it was easy to find because you could go to the last two games they played. The game against Texas in the first round of the playoffs, they had a lot of success. Things they like to do well, they were able to execute. And then against Michigan, they didn't have as much success. But from watching it, it seems like Michigan took them out of their element early, and Washington could not find a way to get back into their groove, get back into what they're comfortable with. And I don't know if they abandoned that or if they seen something, just thought it wouldn't work and tried to do something else. But I went back and watched those two games, and it was interesting to me how much motion their offense goes into and how that dictates to the defense and kind of keeps them on their heels. You're never really comfortable playing defense against a Ryan Grubb offense. They're constantly in motion. They may have a back moving to an empty set. They're always doing something. And he's got a philosophy, and it's simple. I heard him say in an interview, he was like, offense by philosophy should be offensive, not the other way around. You should constantly be trying to attack.
Mm-hmm.
The point of and the definition of the word offense, And I like that mindset because that tells me if he sees any emptiness or any weakness, if he sees anything he can exploit, he's going to attack it. And not just rely on a game plan, but constantly change to what he sees and what the defense is giving him. So I'm excited to see this team offensively. Me and you have talked a little about backstage about how does Milroe fit into all this.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that Nick Saban loved the most about Milroe, from what I've seen in an interview, was that his ability to always want to learn and grow and work on things. And so he doesn't necessarily look like the type of quarterback that Grubb and Coach DeBoer have used in the past, but I don't think it's fair to pigeonhole Milroe into one thing when he constantly wants to evolve. So I'm excited to see what he will do with this offense as well, because they used Penix's ability to get out of the pocket, and he's not nowhere near the runner that Milroe is, but they would use him at times for first downs and down near the goal line, to open things up or keep the defense off balance. And if they can do that with him, imagine what they can do with Milroe's athleticism. The thing that worries me is Milroe will take a little too much time in the pocket sometimes to let the deep route develop, and he doesn't consider the short yardage things and allowing an athlete to get into space, even if it's a 2 to 3 yard throw, and let their athleticism try to make a bigger play. That was something Penix was really good at, and that's kind of what their offense is really good at. And so I'm wondering, are they going to run the exact same thing that they did in Washington? Or are they going to try to manipulate it a little bit to fit Milroe's skill set? So it's things like that are fun to watch. I'm looking forward to A-Day. You're not going to solve all of our questions from A-Day, but it's going to give us at least a base foundation to know what we're going to be looking at, the kind of players, how they're going to fit, where they're going to be at, things like that, who's competing and battling. So as a fan, that kind of stuff's exciting for me.
Well, let me ask you something. Do you think that his offensive scheme, with I'm basically looking at it this way: the quality of players at Alabama versus the quality players at Washington, uh, is it an upgrade? And if it's an upgrade, just how much so is it an upgrade? Because a good football player is a good football player, and I'm sure there are ones at Washington was no slack. What kind of difference do you think that's going to make in his offensive scheme this year?
Well, I think the way they like to work the short to medium range passing routes and try to find the isolated guy in one-on-one coverage that kind of beats their guy. That's kind of what their quarterback's looking for. And use that short yardage and let the athlete open up. Alabama's athletes, to me, are superior to Washington's. And so that could actually make his offense a lot better. Our offensive line, of course, is a question. Of course, we've got the center from Washington who graded out as the best center in college football last year. So center is not really a concern to me. I know a lot of people are worried about him being a little underweight. I don't really care about that.
I think he's more athletic.
Yeah. And he didn't look like he was having a whole lot of problems against that big athletic Texas defensive line to me. So I'm not concerned about him being 278 pounds. I'm pretty sure by the time the season rolls around, I'm looking for him to be in like the 290 range. He's going to be fine. And of course, we're still locked in at guard. We retain those two guards, but our left and right tackles have zero starting experience. So that's a question.
Yeah, I'm curious who's going to replace. I'm curious to who's going to replace Caden Proctor.
I am as well, and not necessarily a bad thing. Not hating on Caden Proctor, but sometimes a change is good. We've got great football players. It's just getting them in there and getting them to learn it. And Milroe, just like the rest of the quarterbacks, besides maybe Austin Mack, don't really know this offense. So it's new for them. I never will doubt Milroe, of course. I mean, y'all know we all love Milroe. That kid's a fighter. So I'm not going to sit here and say, well, I don't know that he'll be I don't know. I don't know who's going to be. I'm pretty sure there's going to be open competition if it's done right, every job should be up for grabs. I mean, who's coming out of spring and fall practice, who's showing the most should be your starter, It's hard to deny Milroe. I mean, he's a dark horse Heisman. It's hard to count him out.
Well, what I'm wondering with his style of system on the offense, And just like you said, we all love Milrow. Is he going to be the best fit for this new system coming up? Is what everybody I would think is wondering.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, if you compare what Milrow did well last year versus what Washington likes to do, no. They didn't rely on the deep ball near as much as we did. That wasn't the same game that they played necessarily. And I think the offense is going to look to be a little bit more balanced this year than it was last year. I think we attempted something like the third fewest passing attempts in the Saban era last year. So there's going to be more passing. But there again, if Milrow can get in there and learn it, and I know he can learn, he's a smart kid.
Yeah.
If he can get his short game down, get his timing with the medium and just kind of learn to read a little bit. And it's not all his fault. He didn't trust his offensive line.
Well, no, he didn't.
And it showed, and he had a right to not trust them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sit here and blame every single sack on the offensive line because sometimes he held on to the ball a little too long, waiting on the deep ball to develop. That's on him. But when he's trying to hike the ball and it's rolling to him, and he's got two guys in his face, and he's having to pick the ball up off the turf, you can't blame the quarterback for that. So, I mean, a change will do you good, We needed something different on this offensive line. We've got great pieces. That right guard, what's his name, Roberts? Is an absolute monster.
Roberts.
He's a monster. And I don't know. There was times last year with the center where he just looked scared. I don't know if he was questioning, if he was, you've played golf. And sometimes when you're putting the ball, they call it getting the yips. And that's where you start getting in your own head a little bit. And that will cause you to overcorrect things or adjust things that necessarily probably should have been left alone. And I think sometimes after you make a few mistakes, you get in your own head and it can make you worse. And I'm wondering if he didn't go through some of that.
Just so everybody knows, I never had the yips. But I know what you're talking about. Well, where does that leave? Where does that leave the running backs?
I think the running backs are going to be okay. I can't remember the young man's name that was Washington's running back last year, but he had a solid season, and they like to use him a lot in the passing game as well as running the ball. So they get the chance to be around the ball a lot, even in the passing situation. So a guy like like Justice Haynes, who's such a great athlete, he'll fit right in. We've got several great running backs who can catch. We've got a lot of quality depth, and that's something I don't think DeBoer's ever got before. Not 3-4 deep at most positions. I don't think he's ever had it like that.
Well, I mean, just out of the running backs that I see or what I think of them, Jam Miller, I believe, is going to be a good block and an extra receiver, I'm going to say, for the breakdowns. That's how I see him fitting into his system. Justice Haynes, I haven't seen him enough. He was going to be kind of like your electric player. Once he gets that 1 foot outside, he's gone type deal.
Yeah. I've seen him do a lot of catching drills practice from last year. He's got good hands.
That'll help.
Oh, yeah, big time, especially in this offense. I've seen Washington do a lot of things where they would come out in shotgun and even seen them come out in ace formation when the quarterback was under center and, one back behind them or one back beside them in shotgun. And then all of a sudden they would move some guys around, and that guy's in an empty slot over here. And that kind of stuff keeps the defense on its toes because when you play Alabama, you expect the running back to be a factor. And now he is, but he's in a different spot on the field. And you've got to find somebody that can cover that guy. And once you take a linebacker and move him out, now you got to worry about that quarterback getting out of the pocket, especially with a Milrow and his athleticism. So those kind of things, I actually see Alabama improving what Washington done based off of the athletes.
What about Richard Young? To me, he looks like, which we haven't got a lot of film on him,
No,
But to me, he looks like he would be what I call the old school fullback.
yeah,
Get
in a
you your short
way,
yardage if nothing else.
he's got great footwork in small space, like his ability to cut in and out of blocks
Hmm.
and work a small gap is pretty impressive on the few times I have got to see him. But he could be a sledgehammer too, to your credit. You know, kind of that fullback, kind of old school power back kind of guy, and there's room for that because the threat of the pass in this offense spreads you out just a little bit, and a power back can really expose some flaws in the middle.
Well, what about Daniel Hill? His name's been added to the list from what I'm understanding.
Daniel Hill, the running
Yeah.
back from
Uh,
guy just signed, or
yeah.
is he the one that was from Miami?
Not sure. I believe it is something from Florida. Now, there's somebody from an IG down in Florida that I've read about lately, but I don't think he was the running back. To be honest with you, whoever this cat is, I know his name is Nathan. Somebody, for me to pronounce his name right, I'd have to grow more hair on my head. I just can't pronounce it. But he is a beast, man. Good grief.
I'm sure he is, but it's going to be hard to. It's going to be, and they may find a spot to utilize him, but
Mm.
he's going to have to really work hard to get into that lineup because we just named some really good running backs.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
they've been patient. They've waited their time. A lot of them have. So,
well, Dale Miller and Richard Young and Justice Haynes, they haven't really waited that long.
Well, yes and no. I mean,
it's all going to be new to them, this system.
Oh, definitely. And so everybody's on an even playing field as far as that goes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. But Justice Haynes, man, the hype about him coming out of high school, and I know that's not always a guarantee, but it's going to be hard to keep him off field. I mean, you look at how good he looked against Michigan, and our offense coordinator sort of failed him and failed the team and not getting him the ball enough because he was effective.
Mm-hmm. Well, that'll change this year. I'm just kind of curious how the passing game is going to blend, or will the running game also blend in as much as a balanced offense, or is it going to be heavier on one side or the other?
I do expect it to be a little heavier towards the pass. I think it'll be percentage, it maybe 5% more overall throughout the season. I don't look for it to be a huge gap, like 80% passing, anything like that. No. But I do look for it to be a little bit more passing than we've seen in some years.
Then that's really going to depend on who ends up being the quarterback.
Most definitely.
With Milroe and his running abilities, I'm wondering if we ain't going to start favoring the running side of the football.
And it could happen. It definitely could happen. Like you said earlier, with the amount of depth he's going to be playing with here, the coach, the offensive coordinator, guys like that. I don't think you'll see the exact same things you've seen in Washington. He had a lot of success with the offense he run in Washington, so he's not going to completely abandon that. I mean, that's been his meal ticket for years. But
I don't think he was out coached. I just think he was outmanned on the players.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, of every team in that playoff, he was probably the weakest roster by far. I mean, I don't think anybody'd argue that.
Well, you got to also admit that Michigan had a game plan of throwing you off your game, because that's what they also done to us.
Yeah, which I could argue that we had success in certain ways, and our offensive coordinator abandoned it. So I try to be pretty positive on here a lot of times, but I was really happy to see Tommy Rees go. I know it was a year. He'd only been here a year. I didn't like what I seen.
Yep. Okay.
I just really did.
Spencer wants to know from you, how do you see Coach DeBoer in seeing the loss to Michigan, offense or defense, that cost him the game? Which one do you think really costed it?
Well, I think Michigan's defense did a hell of a job trying to take Washington's offense out of the game early. They made them do things they're not comfortable with. They changed it, and they didn't try to go back to anything that they're really good at, and it affected them in the third quarter. After going back and watching, I felt like in the third quarter, Washington missed some opportunities to try to go down the field because Michigan was stacking up on them and just creating so much pressure that a few screen plays could have probably opened up something down the field on a third down. But, it's easy from my position to sit back and say that after the fact. Michigan just really had it together in the playoffs, and we undervalued how good they were. I think everybody did. They had a really good team. Their coach had good game plans, and you can say what you want to about how they got those game plans, but regardless, they won the game. We actually gave them more fight than Washington did on the scoreboard.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I agree with Todd Colburn there, Reese was a bad hire from the start. I sort of had that feeling too, and I didn't want to be negative out of the gate. But he had never done anything at Notre Dame that made me think, wow, this guy's going to really do something crazy at Alabama. No. I thought he had hurt Notre Dame a lot of times with their play calling because he would get pigeonholed into a certain thing and wouldn't break out of it. I know you watch Notre Dame quite a bit or have.
No. Don't let me give that No.
Spencer said Washington got out coached and outplayed. That's fair, but so did we. I mean, it happens. Saban's the greatest of all time, but he got out coached against Michigan too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how I feel about it. We didn't make the necessary changes. It was pretty obvious they were leaning on the run game, and they were beating us, sprinkling out some play action and beating us in the medium gains, and still relying heavy on the run game, and we didn't adjust and stop it like we should have. They didn't do nothing that outstanding. Michigan didn't do anything groundbreaking.
I'm not ready to throw the blame on Nick Saban and the coaching staff per se. With the offensive line doing like it was doing,
sure,
it's kind of hard. Yeah, it's just hard to operate.
And I agree with you, but sometimes you got to make a change. I mean, what was so impressive when we beat Georgia? What was it in 2017, the national championship? Was his ability to pull Hurts out, put Tua in, make a change, and it helped us. We won the game because Tua put it on a rope in the back of the end zone, and Devontae Smith catches the ball. We win the national championship in overtime. Sometimes you got to be able to pull a guy. The center playing all year, I put that on Coach Saban.
Yeah,
he kept mistakes. He didn't get better. We left him out there. Sometimes you got to make an adjustment. It's not fun to do. I understand being loyal to guys, but you got to do what's best for the team, and that was not what was best for the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree totally. I could never understand why he wouldn't get another center after, after 10 bad snaps. Looks like to me you need to start looking somewhere else, and he never.
I agree. And people kept telling me, well, the guy behind him is not as good as him. And I'm like, well, then that's on the coach for not recruiting well. I mean, you can keep going with that. I'm not trying to say, oh, wow, Coach Saban was terrible. I think we all know better. He's the greatest. He's the GOAT.
Mm-hmm.
There's no denying that. But even GOATs make mistakes, guys.
Sure.
I mean, Bear Bryant, 68. What was it, 68 and 69? If he don't change that offense, we were mediocre at best.
Yeah.
Even greatness has downturns,
Well, look at this hire of I ain't gonna say because everybody knows the last 2 years before this one. Well, I bring up bad nightmares, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, but they were bad hires.
Yeah, he did. He had made several bad hires. Now, Kevin Steele wasn't a bad hire, but we knew we was getting Kevin Steele. I mean, that's his third stint at Alabama, and he'd been consistent pretty much everywhere he'd ever been.
Mm-hmm. No, Kevin Steele was not a bad hire. No, I enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
He got the defense back up to where it needed to be.
Try to read some of these comments as well.
I know Spencer's got me right now. If everything,
he's right. I mean, he's right. By the way, happy birthday, Spencer. Seen on Facebook.
That's right.
It was his birthday. Shout out to the big man. Happy birthday, buddy. Hope you have a
Yeah,
good
I think he's what, 89 now.
Is it 89? Wow.
No, he's not 89, guys. Don't hit him up with that. He probably feels like it, like me. Every now and then he feels like he's 89.
Good
And by the
man.
way, rest in peace, Carl Weathers.
Yeah, man. Hated to see that. Grew up on his movies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, great college football player, made it to the NFL. Incredible actor, was politician one point. That guy lived a life.
Oh man, he was one of my favorites. One of my
Oh, me
favorites.
too. He was so good in Predator. I love that movie. He was so good in Predator, and he was so. And Apollo Creed was my favorite character. I liked him better than Rocky. So,
hey, Apollo Creed, the way he played Apollo Creed, I thought he was a real guy.
He looked legit. I mean, he really did. He had the physique of a boxer. He moved like a boxer. He talked like a Muhammad Ali type guy. It just fit, man. He did so good in that movie or that series.
His skills was just amazing. There's very few, actors that I like. He was one of them. What is his name? Michael Duncan. Love to watch him. I think he's passed on now.
He has.
But the good ones, they need to get some more.
Man, not to go off character or off topic too bad, but man, how great was Rocky 4? Man, when he comes out and they get you pumped up and he's going to fight the Russian, they got James Brown doing Living in America. I mean, you get hyped up watch it. It happens to me every time. And then he goes out and dies in the ring. I mean, you talking about a 180-degree turn on you right there. Like you're hyped up. James Brown's out here, and then boom, they bring you down. I mean, it killed me with that, man. That was awesome.
Oh, I watched a video on James Brown the other day, and that's got to be Michael Jackson's daddy, and they just ain't.
Oh, James Brown's the greatest. To me, he's the top 3 greatest artist of all time. I don't know how heavy you follow music. I'm a big music guy. And if it's not for James Brown and the way they sampled his music, there's no hip hop the way we see it today. They used so many of his sayings, so many of his beats. They sampled so much of his music, but he was smart. He made money off his. So,
yeah. And that voice, you know what I'm saying?
I think it was a show in Saigon I seen him do in the 70s. And man, it was so incredible. His performance was so incredible. And I've seen videos of him when he was in his 60s get up there and perform and just leave it all on the stage. If you bought a ticket to a James Brown concert, you got your money's worth.
Yeah, and that's the reason I liked him in that movie. He was so cool. They put the jacket on him. That was a great addition. Great addition. I know somebody in here is trying to sabotage us. Let me see. Where is it at? I didn't know Tom Reed really didn't like us that much.
Man, we should hire Bubba.
I thought he liked us.
Well, it's called wishful thinking. There's been years I would want to send certain coaches to Auburn, so I understand it. I really do.
Yeah. So, anyways, all right. What about the tight ends this year? What are you looking for out of them on the offense?
I'm looking for an offensive coordinator that knows how to use them. Straight up, Tommy. I felt like he mishandled our tight ends, and I had Nye Black at times would aggravate me because he was a big guy, but he wasn't a physical guy, and that's not what I want for my tight end position. There was times where he could have probably got the extra 2 yards to get a first down or the extra yard if he had just lowered his shoulder, played a little football, a little physicality, but he would rather go down or dance a little bit and try to get the yard, and I don't like that. I like a guy at tight end that's physical, that can block, that can catch. You got to be a multi-tooled athlete to play tight end, especially nowadays. Mm-hmm. So that would aggravate me, but there was times where we didn't seem like we had a spot for him in the game plan. And there was long stretches of the season where we really didn't talk about him because he didn't get used. Mm-mm. And we had talent behind him that really didn't get a lot of looks either. And what was the young man's name? Number 45. He was more used as a blocker than he was a
Was it Oots?
yes, Robbie Oots. That guy was mishandled, in my opinion, because when they would bring him in and run to his side, he made things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And, there were situations like in the Michigan game with the game on the line, you can lean on somebody like that and run to his side and let him open up holes. And then you can turn around and scheme him into a pass play when they're expecting one thing and do another. I don't know. We just did not handle the tight end because we're deep at tight end right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're used to guys over the years having great tight ends, from Ozzie Newsome on up, we've had some great tight ends, but I don't think I dare say this group of tight ends may be the most talented we've seen at one time.
To me,
why ain't you using them?
Yep. Well, to me, we showed a big lack in not using the middle hardly any at all in the short passes, and I don't know why.
Me either.
Because a tight end is great in the middle in a crossing pattern.
That's the middle of the field. Shout out Coach Dude. We ain't forgot you. Me and him used to gripe a lot on his show that the middle of the field was like I-59 at 4 a.m. It was wide open.
Yeah.
And nobody uses it. Nobody's throwing out there because, a lot of us are used to old school football. When you went over the middle on a pass play, you're getting jacked up by safety or a linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody's using the middle of the field anymore. I don't understand that. Tommy didn't like to use screens. And there again, tight end can be a key blocker, a key attribute on a screenplay. He didn't call a lot of screenplays. Let them athletes get out one-on-one situations, like a Bond or a Law or, all these receivers we got blazing speed, great athleticism, but you're not putting them in a position to use it.
Yeah, that's what I'm not understanding because a short pass across the middle, whatever you're doing, the screens, it doesn't take as much time.
No, not at all.
Which will help your offensive line, seem like to me.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. So there's a lot of gripes I have about what went down. And we had a great season overall. And there again, if anybody's watched this show before, they know me. I don't like to just harp on negative. But I was not a big proponent of what Tommy Rees was doing and the way he was using his players. And I've got gripes against certain players too. There was things as good as Milroe did for us. There was a lot of times he could cost us too with his ability to not make a decision fast.
Mm-hmm.
There's blame to be put around all over.
But I'm with you. We had an excellent year. Excellent year. It took a lot. It took a lot. Tom Reed, you can close your ears, but it took a lot to beat Georgia.
Tom knows how I talk about Georgia. I give Georgia the props. I think they're solidly, consistently, top two programs alongside us because nobody else has showed the ability to stay at a high level for X amount of years, but Georgia and Alabama right now. Yeah. We've done it longer than them, but they've stayed right there with us since they've got there. Georgia hasn't dropped off. They've stayed consistent. The only thing that kept them out of the playoffs this year was us.
That's what say was Alabama. You remember?
Yeah, that's the only thing that kept them. And honestly, if I'd have had a vote, I'd have voted them into the playoffs. So
I would have too.
And that's just me being honest because what I seen from them all year was a good football team. And you could question their schedule and everything else, but they did it the way it had to be done. They won the football game. And they're a collective unit. They're not an individual team. They play like a football team.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Georgia, man, beating them, that was a wild game. That was a wild game. Coming off of the Auburn game, it was a wild game. It was crazy. It felt like this team was starting to be the team of destiny for a while. That's why I couldn't pick Michigan. There was no way I could pick Michigan to beat us. There was no possible way. It just felt like Alabama was destined to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It was a letdown losing to Michigan just because I did not like their head coach. So it was for personal reasons for me. I've never really cared for Michigan as a whole. They were always kind of reminded me of Notre Dame a little bit, where everybody always talked about them, but they never really did anything. Not in my lifetime, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So, for selfish reasons, not a big fan of Michigan or their previous coach, but making it to the playoffs and winning an SEC championship when a lot of people didn't know if we were going to break even this year, especially after the first two ball games. Well,
Oh,
I'll go
you
out and say
better.
first three after the South Florida game, especially. We didn't really. I don't think any of us foresaw us winning the SEC championship. Not after the South Florida game and the loss to Texas the week before. I don't think.
Well,
That's just me.
yeah, I'm gonna switch gears on you real quick. Like,
Sure.
uh, this right here, receivers. I know we got Ryan Williams, and everybody's really drinking the Kool Aid on that one. Is he even going to see the field this year?
Ryan Williams.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be hard to keep him off field. I really think he may be the best receiver to come out of state of Alabama since Julio Jones, as far as a high school player. Just from what I see, and there again, I don't get paid for my opinion or even claim to know that I know what I'm talking about. But this guy, he's showing me a lot in a little bit of film. And look at it like this: only guy in the state of Alabama history to win Mr. Football 2 times. That's pretty
Mm.
impressive.
But
I mean, you think about it, in the history of high school football in Alabama, one guy can claim that. Man, that's something.
it's 1 2 a.m. showing off to kill his career. Bone down there cares about
I see what he's saying. Yeah, one of them late nights, getting a Bronco, getting a little trouble. Yeah, I get it. And I don't wish that on him. I hope he has a good career, goes to the NFL, makes some money for his family. You know, I hate he left just because he was part of Alabama history, especially that play putting the dagger in Auburn's heart. You know,
Well, the only thing I don't like about
makes that
Isaiah
play
Bond
bittersweet.
is not his choices in going to Texas. It's him getting down there and showing off in a Lamborghini. That tells me he was bought. Now, just something about that just kills me. You know, I know
Well,
they get. You know, I know they get benefits. I know that.
I don't know if
But
AT's
don't
hanging
show it
around
off.
in the chat because I know me and him have went back and forth through shows for 2 weeks now about our differences of opinions here, and he's
Yeah.
got a right to his. He's got a good opinion. He's a smart man, but I don't know if it's my inability to care that much what some high school kids doing, but it's also
Yeah.
me looking at where I would have been at their age with that amount of money, and it wouldn't have been good, folks. I'm just telling you right now.
Well, these kids nowadays have to play the game and
They
get what
do.
they can. You know, because a lot of them, and just to be honest with you, a lot of
We've
them's not going to make it in the NFL.
No, they won't. And the NFL is still, in my opinion, trending downwards. A lot of people argue against that. I don't. Uh, I used to love to watch the Pro Bowl game when they'd have the best of the best lineup and play throughout the NFL. Well, they don't do that no more for risk of injury because everybody's soft. So now they go out and play these skill competition games. Well, I watched the quarterback skill competition the other night. Just caught it on and thought I'd watch it. It's pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. First of all, your best quarterbacks weren't there. You know, Patrick Mahomes was going to be in the Super Bowl, so he wasn't there. A lot of guys opt out for whatever reason. So I'm watching the accuracy competition, and a guy doing an interview for ESPN. He played for Connecticut. I can't remember the guy's name, but he went out and did the competition and performed better than the NFL quarterbacks did. And yeah, now he was an NFL quarterback at Detroit for a little while, but he never did anything notable.
Mhm.
But he went out and scored better than they did. So I was like, okay, this is the best of the best, huh? I can't help it. The football's changing so much, it makes me sick a little bit. You can't play defense like you used to could. You know, the aggression's gone. Hard hitting is what drew a lot of us into the game. That's gone. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I got derailed here.
Yeah, I'm reading it too. Yeah, I'll put it up there.
He paints his fingernails, and his dad's cool with that, or because I mean he is a high school kid. You still got a little bit of say so over him, you know.
Well,
What
I
the fuck
tell
is
you with
my house?
him, the colorful mouthpieces. Well, I'm not really. That don't bother me. That really don't bother me, but it does catch your attention, and I guess that's what you're trying to do. But or are you just trying to be colorful? I don't know, but uh, fingernail. Come on, God. There's a fine line. Remember, you're playing football
I got a
with,
buddy that's a
with
USC
young
fan.
men. Okay.
I got a friend that's a USC fan. He really didn't start paying attention to college football until Pete Carroll's run in the mid 2000s really got big. So that is kind of the team that drew him in. And he was talking to me this year, and Caleb Williams was their quarterback, and he was known for painting his fingernails, and he was so conflicted on what to do. As a fan, he's like, I'm having a hard time rooting for this team. And that's to be said. Some people may paint their fingernails in the chat. I'm not judging you, not openly, but you know, yeah, I don't. There ain't no way, man. If my fingernails are black, it means I got them smashed at work. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, and I'm sure it's just a thing. I'm sure it is. Kids,
yeah, some fad.
kids
I
these
know.
days,
Yeah, I get it. I know. Yeah, I struggle with it, but I still can't judge his athleticism. He's a hell of an athlete. He's a great receiver. In fact, I think his route running abilities were better than Julio's at that same age. Julio was pure athleticism at first. Now, he became a complete football player, complete receiver. But when he first started out, he was just overpowering guys. He was using his elite athleticism to beat guys. Ryan Williams can do it a multitude of ways. So I think I'm not going to sit here and say he's a starter his first year, but you're going to see him on the field.
All right. I'm gonna go this route with you again. Wide receivers. And I feel like Ryan Williams will be, because he decommitted from us at one time, and DeBoer or whoever in charge of that one got him to sign back up. So my question is, as a coach, what part of this system would draw a quality kid receiver like that back into the fold?
That's a good question. I think it kind of reverts back to what I was talking about earlier in the show. How they use the short to medium passing plays to put receivers in position, use their athleticism to make bigger gains out of something.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they throw the ball and they use a lot of crossing routes and stuff like that, they're not just looking for the initial 6-yard catch they're getting. They're thinking this guy's athletic enough to beat who's defending him and turn this into a 15, 20-yard or a touchdown. That's what they're looking for out of these guys. And so if I'm a wide receiver and I see that they had multiple 1,000-yard receivers in the same year, and even their third and fourth guys were averaging 500, 600, 700 yards in a season, and how they distribute the ball to so many people, and if your quarterback's reading these guys properly and running this offense the way it should, that if you're open, they're going to find you. Yeah, you want to play for this offense. And so
who do you think will be your number one receiver this year?
Wow, that's a good question.
Yeah, it's a fine question. I'll throw a few at you. You got Law, you got Prentice, you got Hale, who was a freshman last year. Mm-hmm. Now you got Ryan Williams coming in, who's possibly could see the field.
I don't want to interrupt you, but Hale, I liked what I seen out of Hale last year a little bit. Not saying he's going to be the starter. I don't think he'll get it over Law or any of the others, but man, Kobe Prentice too. Kobe is, man, he is so underrated.
Mm-hmm.
He cuts guys up on the route tree. His footwork is nice. I've seen him just confuse guys, and you're watching the video, and you're like, that dude is 15 yards open right now. Why ain't the ball in the air going to him? Mm-hmm. So I think the lack of production in wide receivers makes some people in our fan base question if we have talent at wide receiver, and it's not that.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. With the departure of Isaiah and Burton gone, that was our main two. And I'm going to be honest with you, Kendrick Law, I think he's listed as an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what he is.
Yes.
He should be among that route of Steve Largent.
Oh, that's a throwback.
That's how I see him. And
well, that's good company. Steve Largent,
very good company. But will they bring it out of him?
Yeah. And I think they will. I really think so. Look at what they did with the talent they had. And I keep referring back to that, but it just makes sense to me. None of the guys they had were jumping off the board coming out of high school. This is going to be the best receiver in college football. This is going to be the best quarterback in college football. You know what I'm saying? Like, they got a lot of wins, a lot of yards, and a lot of production out of guys that really weren't supposed to be the top players at their positions.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just thought this was an interesting comment.
I agree with him.
I do too. If you
They've simplified the route running trees. I've actually watched some videos on this and how they've cut down a lot in spread offenses. They cut down a lot of it for the quarterbacks to be able to dial in with the receivers on only certain routes, and you don't have to keep them. They've simplified the game a lot. Spread football really simplified the game. That's when you really started to see a lot of guys holding signs up on the sideline instead of having play call. I hate all that. I hate every bit of that. If you're going to be part of it, be dedicated to it, put the work in and learn it. If he's that dumb, I don't care how good an athlete he is, he can't play for me. Sorry. If you can't remember a play call, you got to have a sign with Elmo on it to know that you're I just can't coach you, man. I'm sorry. Go somewhere else. Hugh Freeze always needing athletes.
No disrespect to Cam Newton.
That's twofold on that. I don't think he may have been the smartest quarterback to ever play the game, but he is one hell of an athlete. Man, he was great in the NFL for a while too. I mean, I'm not going. He broke my heart in 2010, I believe it was. Alabama Auburn game hurt me. But yeah, I mean, he was good. But yeah, definitely they simplified the offenses for these guys and just rely on their athleticism. Where a well-coached player that's a good athlete as well, but if he knows everything on the field, you can't stop him. And we've taken a lot of that away from football.
What you probably know more about the scheme of the Boyer, what he's going to run. How do you kind of give us some examples of what the wide receivers will benefit from him?
Well, they use a lot of rub routes, and what I mean by that is like crossing routes. And they slant it up a lot, and that gives the wide receiver an ability with a good quick instep to get open on a guy for a couple of yards. And a good athlete can turn a couple into a lot. And I think that's where being at Alabama will benefit this coaching staff more than they did at Washington, because I do not think their athletes are nowhere on the page near as good as Alabama's. And so as a wide receiver, they do use a lot of different routes, and that doesn't allow a defensive back to just stand there and know what you're going to do. Their offense is a lot more complex. And like I said, the use of motion, they constantly have guys in motion. And so they get in the defense's head a little bit pre-snap.
Is it just me, or is it these kids' heads? It's wide receivers. Is every time they touch the ball, it's got to be a touchdown.
Some guys.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm missing a lot in the game, and maybe the game has just changed that much and left me by on this. You're not using the middle for your short passes, or even your wideouts. Is everybody wants to get that touchdown running straight down the field.
Yes.
What happened to those guys that would hit the middle that was tough? Could get you those.
Game has changed so much, we don't get exposed to those guys anymore.
Get them, killers. Kill him.
Did they find Bigfoot?
If it's my wife, I ain't answering that question.
No, I ain't leaning. So you're not gonna get me in on that. But no, that middle of the field, that guy that can make the catch and knows the hit's coming and makes the catch. The way the game's changed, and you're not allowed to make contact with guys in certain ways, and you got to be careful of, the crown of the helmet and this, that, and the other. It's the way defense played is so much different. It kind of hurts offense too, because we don't get to see those guys that were like, that's a Chris Carter who could make a catch anywhere on the field. I don't know if you remember Chris Carter, but he was not known to burn you. That's not how he played the game. He didn't have the speed to beat you deep, but he would make every one of those sideline routes. His feet would be perfect. he would catch the ball, go out of bounds, or he would make that catch in the middle and take the big hit from a Steve Atwater or some of those other guys. And he's not going to drop the ball. He's going to get up. He's going to do it again. So football's changed so much. It hurts both sides of the football, really, because those standout stars that had key attributes that helped, you don't get that exposure anymore.
I'm sorry, I cut the microphone while the dogs was barking. Yeah, the targeting rule. I agree with Tom Reed. It's just they really need to modify that. They really do.
I'm all for people's safety. I really am, because it bothers me to see somebody like Earl Campbell, who was a man, one of the greatest running backs to ever play the game, would look for the open contact and could have probably got more yards avoiding it at times, but wanted to hit people. And when you see him now and how he sort of struggles and he's kind of in a wheelchair, things like that, it bothers me a little bit, to think that could have been prevented. But at the same time, we all knew what we signed up for. We all did. Nobody signed up for football and thought it was going to be easy, thought it was going to be soft, didn't think you would get pancaked, as a defensive lineman, get caught looking the wrong way and a guard comes through and pulls and ear holes you, and you get up in your helmet sideways and what their field tastes like and everything else. I mean, that's just what football is, unfortunately, or fortunately, For some of us, I like the contact. That's what drew me to the sport. But, yeah, I hear a lot of people say 5 years from now we're going to be flag football, and I don't doubt it. I really don't. I've seen where there's movements to put flag football in the Olympics. And if it's popular, don't think the NFL and other leagues aren't going to go, huh? You get what I mean? Like,
hey, I'm still one of those that I still don't get soccer. Okay, soccer is
it's not for me.
No.
I'm all for people enjoying whatever they like. I care less. I'm one of the people, if I don't like it, I don't have to bash it. I just stay away from it. But yeah, I don't get it. I've never understood it. We don't use our hands unless we're in the goal. And I don't know. I just see a lot of opportunities in soccer to tackle somebody that would make it a lot better. a lot better.
Here's something I would like to have your opinion on. NCAA goes away, we'll end up with better refs and that are the same page calling games. Never going to be perfect, but just work. It's just how you got a human element when it comes to the refs. So you can't always blame them. It's just part of the game. But the NCAA,
but in that same aspect, I agree with him though. I've always thought that the refs should be consistently the same referees for every conference. Mm-hmm. And they are for the most part, but they handpick and choose it. They should be hired through college football, just like the coaches are, to me. They should be paid and be part of a league, be part of the NCAA, and can be punished just like coaches can, just like players can. And if they make mistakes, they should be held accountable for those, just like coaches can, just like players can. The people real quick to defend referees, and a lot of us are quick to go after referees, and mistakes do happen, but they are not held accountable whatsoever.
Yeah, come on, it's still a human element. You got 22 guys you're out there watching play football.
I agree.
And a contact sport, mistakes will be made. So I don't totally
I understand that, but if I throw 6 interceptions for touchdowns for the other team, am I not held accountable for that and probably lose my starting job?
Yeah, I mean, but there always seems like there is certain referees that have a tendency to make bad calls, and but
that's where you start getting into the argument there, because there are referees that become household names for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. All right. Now, what about the NCAA? This is kind of one of the gripes that I really have. You got violations that go on here and left and right, and the team that follows, or the coaches that follow that particular violation, they're the ones that have to pay the price for it, and not the ones that commit, quote, the crime.
Yes.
So I think either the NCAA is going to have to come up with an immediate, if you're questioned in your violation, there should be some immediate action so that it doesn't cost the teams afterwards. You see where I'm going with this?
Yes, I do. We just seen where who was it? Proctor, who transferred to Iowa. They're saying that they were in contact with him possibly back in September, and that's against NCAA violations. Nothing's going to be done about it.
No,
Nothing.
they
You know,
don't
you
have
see
the
what's going on
power
with
that they
Tennessee
claim to
right now.
have.
They do not have the power. Once they allowed the NIL and those money were put in trust, and they were not regulated by the NCAA, they lost their power, in my opinion. And they
Well,
showed that last year with Jim Harbaugh.
exactly. That's where I was going with it. You got Jim Harbaugh, and somebody put in the chat earlier. Michigan will probably end up having to vacate this win. That is nothing against Michigan per se. It's the
No,
fact that you're basically costing next year's Michigan's team or next year their coach.
yep.
Uh, you see where I'm going with it. And that's just not fair to the kids that follow. I don't care whose team you play for. If you're
Mhm.
guilty, there need to be some kind of punishment or infraction that they have to pay for this year, not next year. Look at okay, they vacate. What if they cost some scholarships? Where's Jim Harbaugh?
Yep, he's gone. He's
He's
never
gone.
suffered from this.
Doesn't affect him none at all. And that's just not right for the other kids.
Well, look at
It
Pete Carroll
distracts
at
me.
USC. Same thing happened with Pete Carroll at USC when they come down on them. Well, he just leaves. He's gone.
Yeah,
So, and that happens everywhere. There was coaches got in trouble with Alabama, and then they're gone. And the next guy comes and he has to deal with that. The players have to deal with that. The university has to deal with that. So, yeah, the way football's set up from top down, we're seeing a slow decline, and it's become the Wild West. You know what I'm saying? It's
hmm
become the Wild West. And to me, like there were certain things like when Jim Harbaugh bought the kid a hamburger and everybody got mad at him over that. That's
that's
stupid.
ridiculous.
That's
Yeah,
stupid. And I'm not a Jim Harbaugh fan, but who cares if he bought the kid a hamburger or not? We're giving kids millions of dollars. Are you really worried about a hamburger? I mean,
and there's relationships built throughout the year. You think that a coach or any one of these other coaches, hey man, let's go have a hamburger for lunch.
yes.
You want to call that a violation? Come on, they're working on relationships. Now if
Yeah.
he starts sliding a bag over with a bunch of money in it, and you get it
Yeah.
on film, okay, that's a different story. But
Definitely.
if I want to go out to eat with somebody, no, you're not going to do me that way. Now, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Go
But
ahead. I'm sorry.
I don't know, man. I don't know. The more I see of college football, the game's evolving, and it's not necessarily evolving into something I'm just thrilled about. It's not the fact that people are getting paid, because you look at a guy like a pro throw, and I've stated this before, who got injured playing and never got the opportunity to make money outside of college. And I'm happy for guys to be able to make money. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, Spencer has stated it on his show very well about how they should be certain obligations and contracts written up, and you should fulfill certain things. And I like that. But yeah, this whole just do whatever you want, and the NCAA's running it, but they really don't have the power to run it. I mean, it's confusing. I don't understand what's going on. Uh, Basically, you can just throw money at people and get them and try to win, like Ohio State did this year. And if, in my opinion, if Ohio State doesn't win a national championship, they wasted $13 million or however much it was they spent, because that team is loaded. They should
Mm-hmm. Oh
win.
yeah, they are now. They should
They
thank us
should
for
win
that.
right now. And to me, if I'm the athletic director at Ohio State and Ohio State comes short of winning a national championship, I'm firing Ryan Day the day of. I mean that. I truly mean that. You bought the team. Now it's on you as a coach. And we know the talent's here. So that means you're the problem. You get what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
You may have painted yourself into a corner with that.
Oh yeah. May just have. Uh okay. I'm gonna do this. We're fixing to get off here, guys. Just a few minutes, but I would like to say that Bam Down Sports is not going to be shown on Icebox channel because we're converting it over to a Bigfoot show, all kinds of shows over there. And when I've told people time and time to get ready for it. So if you really want to stay in with the Bigfoot stuff, we're going to do other things, of course. Um, you need to subscribe so you get notifications over there. And I'm going to leave football side over here at Bam Dam Sports. So I'm not going to be crossing them. I've done that to get people a chance to get accustomed to what we're doing over there. Let me get that off here. Jeez. But anyway, it started today.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything football, Alabama, Bam Dam Sports. Guys, don't forget, sign and subscribe. If you enjoy these shows, we really like to hear from you. Make your comments. These guys love to hear from you. And I do
Yes.
too. Now, if they don't respond, it's on them, but I try to usually follow up as much as I can. But we really do enjoy y'all's comments, and I want y'all to know that. So, you got anything else, brother?
I just want to do what I always do because they deserve it. I want to thank the chat for giving us great topics, for being here and showing up, and it's appreciated as always. I tried to bring the best I could today. Don't feel real great, but hopefully we give y'all enough to enjoy and talk about. And I do a pretty good job of not busting out laughing, reading some of y'all's comments throughout the show because I want to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times I want to start laughing, especially at Stephen Hicks. He cracks me up. But I do my best to not get distracted by it and start laughing. And y'all do a great job of giving us things to talk about and just being there for us. So we appreciate y'all as always.
Yeah, Stephen. I know I got you the other night or yesterday. I know I got you yesterday. And we will answer that question for you coming up. We will answer that question because I'll go back and make sure I remember how it goes. But we'll get that question answered because I already know it. So, anyways, all right, we're going to get out of here, guys. Thanks again. We do appreciate it. Y'all coming and being with us and enjoying. Stephen, buy me I see what you mean. Buy me a cheeseburger.
That's what I'm saying. You just got
they some characters,
over
guys.
try not to laugh.
Y'all are some characters. Y'all make it hard for us to do this show sometimes. I'm telling you. Van's got me a time or two that way. Enjoyed it, Van. Yeah, don't be doing
Yes,
the
sir.
way,
As
Van.
always.
Guys, I don't know if I'm coming back on later. Van asked me. I don't know. I might wait till next weekend. But anyways, guys, y'all have a good Sunday afternoon, and appreciate y'all being with us today. Anything else you got?
No, sir. Just a big old roll tide.
Roll tide, guys. Here we go.
You've got to be better in all three areas of life, which of course are spiritual, mental, and physical. You must be able to discipline yourself. If you don't learn but one thing out of football, it'll be worthwhile. There's certain sacrifices that you will have to make. There are going to be many sacrifices you have to make in later life. To fight. Oh, I don't mean fist fight. I mean to get up and come back and get up and come back and get up and come back again after you've been knocked down. And that could happen to you in later life. But if it does, you're going to know how to handle it. There's no one that ever has or ever will accomplish anything alone. I've read about self-made men. That's Tommy rot, as far as I'm concerned. I don't even know how to define intangibles. And I know that if you learn these lessons, you'll have it. And if you have it, you'll win, and you'll be better prepared in those three areas of life that we've been talking about. That there are going to be times for everyone that you're going to get discouraged. But if you never lose sight of your objective and never give up on yourself, if we do that as a team, 11 at the time, 4 years from now, why, we'll be walking out of here as national champion.